It's that time of the month again. It's the time of the month where I am reviewing one or a little bit more of my funded accounts. And this month, August, was actually quite good in terms of trading experience. I learned a lot, which I will talk through in this video. Basically what happened is that I went through ups and downs in this month, and the reason for that is because if you remember last video, I said that I'm now treating my funded accounts in 200k chunks, which means that I'm risking 1% on a 200k account every single time until I get a payout, and then I leave and I go for the next. I started doing this actually in the beginning of the month, and as soon as the month started, a little bit in my second week of the month, I actually went into a lot of drawdown. And before that, I got a payout, then I went into drawdown, then in the middle of the month after CPI, I was able to crawl out of drawdown, still get 2 other payouts, all of these with my Forex funds, which I have the my Forex funds VIP. So it was basically, I enter a winning trade, I get the payout, winning trade, payout, whatever. During that time, I also passed my Forex funds challenge, and then I approached the True Forex Funds challenge, and that was the end of my month. So I was basically tackling the True Forex Funds challenge for around 1 week. And you'll see there were things that happened in the True Forex Funds challenge, but we'll jump onto the screen basically right now. We'll talk through the ups and downs in this month, and I guess we'll look at the trades. Peace. Okay, so this is the first account that I have, and I'm showing this because I got the 2-cent profit split. And basically the idea is I received this account on August 1st, and I was like, okay, let me just put a micro lot in order to be able to then withdraw whenever I want. Then I put a micro lot, it was into a small profit, and then they basically just closed my account in the 15th of August because it's like, okay, you're in profit, so take the profit. So they force you to take the profit if you are in profit in the expected profit split. So whatever, this was really it. And then this is my other account, which I was in profit for this month. So we can see that this was the first trade that I took right here, a plus 200. Then I was able to enter in a nice trade right here, 1.5R, which resulted in putting me 1.2% in profit. But I was like, okay, I want to get this account to around 3% profit before taking the profit split. If the next trade would have been a winner, I would have just left this account on hold and wait for the profit split. But I didn't want to just take a 1.2%. So ended up taking another loss, and then a small loss, and then another 0.5% loss. So let's look into the trades. Right here we can see that we had small winner day, small winner day, good winning day, and then 1% loss, 0.4% loss, and 0.5% loss. One of the things that I don't like is that my longest trades are the most profitable ones, and I would much rather just enter in quick trades, but either way, it is what is happening, so whatever. We're basically 50-50 in terms of buys and sells, and most of the volume is taken on Euro US dollar. So if we come right here down to what trades I took, we have a buy on Euro dollar, a buy on pound dollar, which I ended up closing. This pound dollar trade, it was actually just a micro lot because I wanted to do a minimum trading day on whatever firm, or I was just testing something else. Then 22nd of August we have a buy on dollar CAD. Then 23rd of August we have a sell on Aussie dollar, which I ended up actually live streaming, and the loss was streamed. We have a buy on pound dollar, which ended up resulting in a 1.3% loss, and I will explain why. So the first trade was actually a 40 pip stop loss, but I ended up extending it because I thought my bias was still right. Then we have a sell on euro dollar and another sell on euro dollar. This was a 0.5% trade, so it actually resulted in a -1R, but I was risking 0.5, and this was a 1% trade on a sell. So let's go on to the charts. We'll start off with euro dollar. These are the trades that I have personally taken this month on True Forex Funds on euro dollar. So we have these 2 trades on pound dollar, this trade on dollar CAD, and we also have this trade on Aussie dollar. So let's get into it. Let's start with the quicker ones, which is Aussie dollar first. So Aussie dollar was actually a trade that I talked about already on a stream. Basically, my idea is that Aussie dollar is very bearish right here, and we've basically broken below this down close candle on the daily. And so my next target right here is this down close candle right there. And so my idea was, okay, let's continue entering in shorts after we have a retest. And what happens? We come back into not only the wick right here, but also the down close candle right there. And so I was like, okay, this is the pullback that I'm now looking for, a continuation to the downside. If we go on to the 4 hour, this is what I didn't really like on the 4 hour, but I ended up taking because of the daily. But what I didn't like about the 4 hours is that we were not able to break below this. And because of that, this kind of showed me some bullish order flow. And looking back, it's definitely something I could have simply looked at and be like, okay, news is coming on Aussie dollar. We didn't really close below it, so I was maybe a little bit just too biased on the short. On the 1 hour, what can you see on the 1 hour? So this is what I was seeing on the charts before I set the trade. We had this fair value gap right here, small fair value gap right there. We had these equal highs right here, and so in my mind I was like, price may come for the equal highs, tap something around this area, and then move lower towards these lows that are all building up liquidity right there. And so I decided to set my order before going to sleep right there. I looked on the 15-minute and I was like, okay, we have equal highs right here, we have this wick right there, and we have this fair value gap right here. And so that's exactly where I set the entry. I set it up at the wick because it was after those equal highs and I was going to be asleep. What ends up happening is that news comes out, we end up impulsing up. While I was sleeping, price actually went into a deep drawdown, but then overnight it started moving lower, and this is where we were already in the stream. Then the stream started at around here. Price was ranging before US dollar news. Price ended up impulsing up just before news. This is maybe where I could have looked at the 4 hour again and be like, look, if price is having trouble breaking below this, then might as well close it. But again, hindsight is 2020, and then price just ended up shooting up during news, taking me out for a full loss. So that is Aussie dollar. Now let's go on to dollar CAD, which is also only one trade. Dollar CAD was actually very, very clean. I really like this trade. And so let's start off here, which was the first day of the trade. On the daily, we have equal highs right there formed, as you can see on the daily candles. We have big bullish intentions in the market, and we have this pullback right here. And as the market was developing, if you think about it, this was a full bearish candle on a bullish daily bias. And so, as we've talked about in the power of 3, I was looking for longs. And so I went onto the 4 hour and I saw that this continues being bullish. We had these equal lows, but this basically just told me that there is this continuation of a bullish trend. We have this break with the candle above these down close candles, and so I'm like, okay, let's look into the lower time frames and see what we have to give us more confluences. And this is where you have this inversion fair value gap, which overlaps with this fair value gap and also this up close candle right here. And so as soon as we tapped here, I actually set this on Telegram, I was looking for an impulse up, a confirmation to then give me a point of interest where I want to enter, which was this inversion fair value gap, which was in line with this fair value gap. And after price broke above, I set my entry, I got tapped, and price started impulsing up a lot. Now, this was a trade that I had to hold overnight, and the reason for that is because price ended up not sweeping any highs while during this impulse up. And so dollar CAD loves to just range everywhere before impulsing up, and it's something that I really don't like about the dollar CAD. And so we ended up coming back to here. My stop loss was at break even. We ended up coming back to these down close candles, and then price ended up shooting up. And the reason I have this at 1.7 and not at 1.82 is because I started taking partials here at first, then here, and then at the highs. And so because of that, the total was 1.7%. And that's why I kept it at 1.7 and not more. Then price ended up shooting up more, coming for this high and this wick right here, which ended up then giving the retrace to then continue bullish on dollar CAD eventually. So that was the dollar CAD trade. Now, moving on to pound dollar and euro dollar. Those are the last ones. I took 2 trades on pound dollar and I took basically 3 trades on euro dollar, and I will explain why this is one trade. But let's start off with pound dollar and let's come into this trade right here, which was on Monday. And I think that was the first issue with this trade, is that it was on Monday. And because of that, in the back of my mind, I had the idea that I'm not really profitable on Mondays. And so I entered in this trade with the idea of sweeping these highs because that was my bias for the week at first, before moving lower. And as I said, I think I really lost confidence for 2 reasons. 1, because as I said, it was Monday, but 2, because we went into deep drawdown. So let me explain. So my bias on this trade was that we have the sweep of these lows, we are in this bullish uptrend, and on the daily, you could have seen that we swept this low. And so for me, between euro dollar and pound dollar, which is going to be important to understand, pound dollar was more bullish. And because of that, I wanted to enter in pound dollar first and then maybe in euro dollar. And that's why on euro dollar, I entered with 0.5% risk. And on pound dollar, I entered with 1% risk. So as you can see, we had this big push up right here. And after that, I was like, okay, I want to enter in a pound dollar trade. And where did I enter? I entered in the retest of this down close candle while being protected by the 50% of this wick, and on the 15 minute, this fair value gap right there, which I believe on the 30 minute was also a fair value gap. Yeah, it was an overlapping fair value gap. So that was the protection that I wanted to have in my trade. So I entered in the trade with a 28 pip stop with the target of this high right here. In my mind, understanding that this may be coming for these highs, which would have been a 2.7R trade. That was really the first target, but then once I saw that price was just hanging around, I was like, okay, let's go into quicker liquidity. So price ended up impulsing lower, reacting directly, and so that looked very positive for me. But then price ended up really going lower into deep drawdown. And so on a 28 pip stop, we went into 20.7 divided by 28. That was 74% drawdown. And I have to say, I entered in this trade and I entered on euro dollar basically with the same bias of going long, which was right here. And I was going through a winning streak too. So that's something to keep in mind. I went through a winning streak and I then started thinking, damn, is this really the end of the winning streak? I started thinking that both trades were going to be a stop loss. It was going to be a minus 1.5, almost 2% loss. And I actually kind of lost confidence in the trade. And so once this impulsed up and this swept this high, my idea was, okay, I don't want to hold this overnight because again, power of 3 basically says that on the next daily candle, what you would have is a move lower, followed by a move higher. And I didn't want to weather drawdown anymore. Like I was starting a 72-hour fast and I was like, man, I don't really want to hold through all this. And so I actually closed the trade manually, all of the trades manually at 0.5%. And that is why you can see here that I closed the trade on pound dollar with a small win. Now that small win is actually ignored by this loss, but this win. So on euro dollar, I actually was 573 minus 365. So on euro dollar, I managed to profit $200, which is 0.2, because I will explain what happened in this trade and this trade. And then pound dollar was $444, 0.4%, which is this minus commissions. So that was the trade on pound dollar. But let's go quickly onto euro dollar because the bias was basically the same. The bias on euro dollar was basically the same in terms of, okay, this is Monday, I'm expecting a pullback. If you go onto my Telegram, you know that I'm expecting a pullback towards here. And so I thought, okay, there is a possible trade to take right there. And so the bias was basically the same, besides the fact that on pound dollar, we swept the low. And because we swept the low on pound dollar, I was more confident that it was more bullish. And so on pound dollar, I actually ended up entering in a 1%, and this was my trade on euro dollar, similar to pound dollar, but only with 0.5% risk, because again, I understood that pound dollar looked more bullish and I didn't want to risk 2%, and so because of that, I risked 0.5 on this one. So total risk was 1.5%. Then price ended up going into a deep retracement. My entry was at this extreme right here, which was also at this down close candle right there, which was in line with the 1 hour fair value gap, this break above this down close candle right there. And so I was just looking for a pullback to continue higher. And so we have fair value gaps, but we also have an order block. And so if you know the way that I trade, I would rather enter in an order block that also has a fair value gap. And so normally I just make sure that I enter in order blocks. And so I entered in this trade. Once again, we have this big push up. But then what happens? We enter into big drawdown again. And at first I only had this trade right here. But I saw that price was getting very, very weak as we were approaching this. We had this fair value gap and price was reacting out of it, and price never closed below it. That's something to keep in mind. And so what I did was, once I saw that price was reacting out of this was the first reaction, I actually entered in another 20 pip trade, 0.5% risk, which in total would make this a 1% risk trade. If I look back, I could have just increased this to 40 pip to do basically the same thing, but what I kind of did was averaging down. And so I increased this by 2 pips, which was an extra 0.1, and I just got tapped down. But this trade was still on. So I basically got tapped out of there and price reverses. And that's when I had the same mentality right here. I was tired, I was hungry, I was a little bit more emotional, and I didn't want to weather another pullback on euro dollar. And so I decided to close the trades. And this is the net that you saw. It was $400 plus $300 minus these $600. So yeah, those were these trades on euro dollar. And then on pound dollar we have 1 extra trade, and on euro dollar we have 2 extra trades that I took. So let's dig into those. Let's start off with pound dollar. So pound dollar, once again, it had this amazing reaction on the daily after sweeping this low. And we were at this weekly zone where I was expecting higher prices. Now, looking back and looking on the daily, obviously you can be like, why are you expecting higher prices when price is bearish for so long and we have these lows and we have this down close candle? And it's like, yeah, I completely understand. But this daily candle closure was so beautiful that I was like, this looks like tomorrow we'll have a move down and a huge impulse up. And so what ended up happening is that I was like, okay, the day starts, what am I expecting? Well, power of 3. I'm expecting bearish, so then price can impulse up and finish like this on the daily. This is exactly what I'm waiting for. And so with that, what did we see? We saw move down exactly as I wanted, retracement at the 1 hour fair value gap. And I set this on Telegram, which is that in my mind, I wanted move down, confirmation, boom. And that is, let me get that on Telegram. So this was the bias on pound dollar. Move down, confirmation, and move up. What happened? Move down, confirmation, move up. But price ended up moving down. So I saw this reaction out of the 15-minute right there. We closed above this small up close candle. And so I was like, okay, let me enter right here on this down close candle, which then has this fair value gap, has the 1 hour fair value gap, has afterwards these up close candles protecting it. And so I entered in this trade. We have this very quick reaction, but then price ends up just moving lower, respecting the overall trend. And I saw this directly, but looking back, you have this 1 hour fair value gap right there that gets respected, no close above it. And so looking back, is this the best trade? Maybe not, but either way, I sticked with my forecast, I sticked with my bias, and it resulted in a loss. It is what it is, it happens, it doesn't matter. And so that was the loss. And after that, I have to say my ego and my daily bias ego and all of that started playing games, and that's why I then was like, yeah, price indeed is looking super bearish, let me enter in a short. But that's when euro dollar looks heavier than pound dollar, and so I entered in an emotional short on euro dollar. And these last two trades simply were more emotional. I can say this because it was true. And that is definitely something that I need to work on my trading, is just being able to leave the charts. The problem is that at least this month, once again, I had a lot of time in my hands, and so I'm staring at the charts and I kind of force things. So I need to leave the charts more often. And so what I saw is that, okay, after taking the loss, euro dollar in fact is also more bearish than pound dollar. So my goal is to target this low and the overall weekly target that I set on the stream, which was this down close candle right there, which was exactly what we targeted. The problem with that is the next trade that we'll talk about. So I saw this closure right here and I was like, if euro dollar is bearish, then I'm looking for bearishness. So I entered in the short and this perceived fair value gap at the 50% right there. And then price ended up impulsing up, going into deep drawdown, ended up actually reversing at this fair value gap at these up close candles, which were also the 1 hour up close candle right there. And then I just ended up taking partials before the market closed here and then taking full profit right there, which is this trade that you can see right here, which resulted in a 1% win. Now, one of the things that I want to say, and I had to close the month there, which was, you can see it right here. I said this on Telegram, my month is finished, and this was at 1 p.m., which was a little bit after taking this loss right there, which was, I noticed I'm just being emotional now again because I closed this trade right here. My idea was, okay, I'm still targeting 1.077. And so I closed this trade because I wanted to enter on Friday as price moves up, power of 3, and moves back down. This is what I wanted to target and I wanted to trade. But overnight, price actually tapped my full TP. And so I have to say, I was a little bit more emotional, and because of that, I was like, oh, euro dollar is still bearish, and so let me look for a trade. Okay, sweeps the high, market shift, fair value gap, order block, and so I entered. Are the entries there? Yes, but the delivery of price is finished. The overall target of the week had been finished, which was right here. So the fact that I entered still on a trade to target this downside, to me, was simply emotional. And because of that, I needed to take the rest of the week off, which was, well, today. But next week, I'm not trading. I am going to travel. And yeah, overall, this was the last trade of the week. I was unhappy with the end of the week performance. But either way, this is it. This is it for the month. I ended up withdrawing in my Forex funds. And basically, the reason I'm focusing first on my Forex funds is because, one, I want to increase assets under management with them. Now I have 200K. And the other thing is that I am a VIP with them. Because of that, I can simply withdraw every time I have a winning trade. That's the main reasons I'm focusing on them. So either way, next month we'll have some true Forex funds payouts because I'll focus on 2 100K challenges that I have with them. I hope everyone enjoyed. I hope this was helpful in general, and we will see us next month. Peace.